Play and Trade Guitars is giving away this Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul to one of you. How to enter? Subscribe to Play and Trade Guitars on YouTube, and we'll give it away when we hit 50,000 subscribers. Hey, welcome back, guitar players and traders. It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars. That's Zach behind the camera as always. Welcome back. We're going to do an uncasing. We're going to talk specs on the bench, and we're going to plug it in and play it. What's it? One of the coolest Les Pauls I've come across in a long time. We're looking at a very special Norland era, yes, 1970s, made in Kalamazoo, Les Paul Custom. Les Paul Customs have been a popular choice of so many players, from Randy Rhoads to lately Adam Jones, making a lot of waves in the guitar community with his partnership with Gibson. And we're going to be looking at something really unique. Very few were made. I can't wait to flip the latches and show you what we're working with today. At the top though, you're going to want to make sure that you're subscribed to Play and Trade Guitars, because Zach and I are giving away a Gibson Custom Shop R7 Les Paul in a beautiful green top, candy green finish. Let's flip the latches on this beautiful case and take a look at what we have today with this 1970s era Les Paul Custom. So this is not your everyday Les Paul Custom that we all know and love. There's something that makes this guitar truly unique, and I think you'll realize right away what I'm talking about. Get a load of that. We're looking today at a blonde beauty. Yes, you've seen the beautiful tuxedo black beauties that were originally introduced in 1953 at the request of Les Paul himself, who was looking for a tuxedo type of guitar. Well, today we're looking at the blonde on blonde experimentation of Gibson and Kalamazoo in the mid to late 1970s. This guitar has a body that dates from 1975, which to my knowledge is the earliest year of production for a maple on maple Les Paul Custom. The electronics date between 1976 to 1978. So as was typical for this era, you'd have parts from a few different years before the guitar actually left the assembly line. But I can't wait to take this out of the case and get this on the bench, talk specs, and then show you what this guitar sounds like. The snap and clarity that come from having the maple fretboard is, you really just have to hear it to believe it. It makes such a great addition to a Les Paul collection, and it's something that truly sets apart any collection, because there's just so few of these out there. Don't get me wrong, I love an ebony fretboard, but I could not pass up the opportunity to feature this incredibly rare and incredibly special guitar on Play and Trade Guitars. So Zach, let's head over to the bench and talk specs. Starting at the top, one of my favorite things about a Les Paul Custom is the headstock. Here's a look at the raw, a modern custom shop Gibson Les Paul Custom veneer. So this is what goes on the face of those beautiful Les Paul Customs with that mother of pearl inlay, Gibson mother of pearl inlay. This one is actually signed by brand president Cesar from our visit to the custom shop in Gibson, USA last year. So thanks Cesar for sending us home with this. And you heard it from me first. These will make great light switches one day. When they're on the Gibson website, let me know. Obviously you have the gold hardware like you see on almost every Les Paul Custom, with the exception of maybe the silver bursts that have chrome. You have this inlay Gibson, and I always like this era. It's kind of cool. If you notice, there's no dot on the eye. So it's just kind of a quirk of that era. This was produced in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is what they call the split diamond inlay, which I think is just so gorgeous. That comes from a Gibson Super 400 arch top, which in 1953, when the Les Paul Custom was introduced, they borrowed that split diamond inlay from the top of the line Gibson arch top available at the time. They wanted the Les Paul Custom to be dressed to impress, and they wanted everything about it, no expenses spared in all the details. And to this day, that split diamond headstock inlay is one of my absolute favorite things that you can see on a Gibson guitar. Beautifully bound headstock. You can see on the side here if I rotate. Another unusual thing about 70s era Les Paul Customs is that they have maple necks. So instead of a traditional mahogany neck, we actually have a three-piece maple neck starting in around 1975. This guitar has a soft volute here to reinforce the strength of the headstock. And also in the 70s, they started putting Made in USA underneath the serial number. This serial number is 600403. And because Gibson notoriously kept very poor records and reused serial numbers, you have to do a little bit of sleuthing and detective work to figure it out. But this serial number combination puts it between 73 and about 75. Well, we know it's a 75 because they didn't offer maple as a fretboard option until 1975. So what I think is a standout about this guitar is that you are getting the first production year for the Les Paul Custom in maple, the blonde on blonde, blonde beauty. Beautiful headstock. The only non-original component on this guitar, you can see right here, is the brass nut. But I think brass nut is kind of a smart choice for a guitar like this, because one thing you're looking for in a maple fretboard is that extra punch and snap and brightness, and it takes it one key further in that direction to have that brass nut. That's the only thing that's been changed. Frets on this guitar, you can see, are in really good shape. The original Black Beauty Les Pauls of the 50s had very, very low, shallow frets. They were called the fretless wonders. They did away with that when the Les Paul Custom was reintroduced in 1968, following a discontinuation in the 60s, with a more modern kind of medium to medium jumbo now, depending on the model. Very playable guitar. The frets on this guitar are in really good shape. And another thing you'll notice on the maple is that we have the bound fretboard, but then we also have the gloss finish over the frets and fretboard itself. So you get kind of that Fender feel. So it's kind of like a Gibson's take on kind of the Fender glossy, maple fretboard that you would see on a Fender style guitar, but with these beautiful pearl block inlays with the Les Paul Custom. The only bit of wear on this maple fretboard are two small parts where you see a little wear on the 4th and 6th fret there. Other than that, this guitar actually spent most of its life in a case. So as we move down to the body, we can look at this beautiful piece of maple. Looks like a 3-piece maple cap. So we have a band of maple here, band of maple through the center, and then a band of maple through the right. Bound body. A lot of the Les Pauls of the 70s were pancake bodies that had a sandwich layer of maple running through the center. This does not have that. So this would be truly a solid piece of mahogany with the 3-piece maple cap. You have your standard routed 3-way control panel and the electronics panel, which I'll pull off right now to give you a look at the pot codes, which is kind of interesting on these guitars. So first thing you'll notice when you take the back panel off is that you have this aluminum or chrome plate that hides the electronics. Why they did that, I really don't know. I mean, I don't know what you'd be shielding because you have humbucker pickups. I don't know if it was just for protection of the parts inside or it was just kind of considered a premium feature, but for whatever reason it has this kind of ashtray plate hiding the electronics. Original screws here. You can tell the electronics are original, the solder joints are original. What's unusual is that you have 3 pots that have 76 codes. So 1976 here, 1976 here, and then 1976 here. What you have here though is one pot, 13778. So the latest dated part on this guitar that I've found is this 1978 pot. It's also interesting because the pot itself, if you pull the knobs off, is actually slightly taller. So what did they do? Basically, when they put this guitar together, they had a parts bin, they had 3 pots from 76 and 1 from 78. They installed it anyways, they didn't care. All right, so turning the guitar back over, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the strings and we're gonna take a look at these T-top pickups. T-top pickup refers to the Gibson pickups that were introduced around 1967. So they received a patent number for those Seth Lover developed humbucking pickups that you find in Gibsons. And they're called T-tops because under these gold covers, there's little T's etched into the black plastic. And you'll also find a patent number on the back. And usually you'll also find a date on the back of the pickup itself. So if I take the original pickguard off, you can see how slight the aging has been. There's only a subtle difference between what you find underneath that pickguard. Here's a look at the bridge. You can see stamped Made in Germany. And another point about the bridge is that this is a Nashville style bridge. So the Nashville style bridge was actually very new. Most Les Paul Customs up until probably the mid 70s would have featured an ABR1. In fact, the Les Paul Custom originally was the first Les Paul to feature the ABR1 bridge where the posts were screwed directly into the body. Those became more famous on the bursts, the collectible 58, 59, 1960 Les Paul standards, but it started on the original Les Paul Custom. By this point in the 70s, you're actually seeing the new development of this Nashville style bridge. So typically you'll have the screw heads face toward the bottom butt of the guitar. And rather than have the posts drilled directly into the wood, they're in these bushings, which are routed and inserted into the body itself. All right, so now we can pull these pickup rings off and take a look at the original T-top pickups. We do have the patent number, and there is a date here. The one on the neck pickup says March 9th, and then it's not legible. But the one on the other side is legible, so we'll take a look at that one. And if you can get a shot in here, you can get a great look at the mahogany and the maple cap. This date stamp, if you can get a shot of that Zach, I read as March 9th, 77. So like I said, the serial number puts the body to 75. The latest pot I found was 1978. So that would be consistent to find a date code of 1977 at kind of the midpoint of those parts that were used on the guitar by the time it left the factory in 78. All right, we got a bridge T-top pickup reading 7.7, neck pickup reading 7.4, and then splitting those or combining those in the middle at 3.7. '70s Les Pauls can definitely be heavy. This one's actually not too bad. I actually like the weight on this one. About 9 pounds, 15 ounces, so just under 10 pounds. Brass nut measures about 1.7. Body thickness comes in at about 1.83. Here's a listen to the DI sounds of this guitar directly into our recorder, starting with the bridge pickup. All right, the guitar looks beautiful, but now where it really shines is wait till you hear the resonant snap and voice, the articulate, beautiful voice of this guitar. It really does sing. Let's plug it into a Marshall and make some noise. too much fun playing this guitar. I love the feel of the maple. I'm a big Gibson fan, but I'm a big Fender fan myself. And the extra punch and snap you get from this combines some of the best of both worlds in a really unique way. I love the way this guitar is voiced. I love the way it feels. It's not too heavy, just under 10 pounds. A beautiful piece of history from Gibson, the original Kalamazoo plant. I love this guitar. Hope you enjoyed taking it apart with us and plugging it in and playing it. For Playing Trade Guitars, I'm John. That's Zach behind the camera. Make sure you're subscribed to win our Gibson Custom Shop R7 Les Paul. And keep a lookout for this blonde beauty. Hope you enjoyed as much as we did. See you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.